6 weeks. That was all that stood between me and the life I had dreamed about for 3 years. Every morning, I woke up believing I was the luckiest man in New York. My name is Ethan Carter. In exactly 42 days, I was supposed to marry Chloe Mitchell. I still remember looking at our wedding invitation resting on the kitchen counter. Her name beside mine made everything feel real. Ethan. Chloe walked into the kitchen carrying 2 coffee mugs. You're staring at the invitations again. I smiled. I still can't believe we're almost there. She handed me a mug. I can. You sound confident. I've been waiting for this day forever. So have I. She kissed my cheek before sitting across from me. We still need to choose the music for the reception. I'll let you win that argument. She laughed. I knew you would. You always choose better songs. And you always pretend you don't care. I really don't. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I love you. I love you too. At that moment, I meant every word. Later that afternoon, we met with our wedding planner. Flowers, tables, guest lists, cake designs. Everything was finally coming together. The planner smiled. You two make decisions faster than any couple I've worked with. Chloe laughed. That's because Ethan always lets me have the final vote. I shrugged. I trust her. The planner looked at me. You're a brave man. I prefer happy. Everyone laughed. On the drive home, Chloe rested her head against the passenger window. I'm exhausted. You've earned a quiet weekend. She smiled. Actually, what? Emma invited me over tomorrow night. For a girls' night? Movies, snacks, gossip. I grinned. Sounds dangerous. It probably is. I'm not invited? She laughed. Definitely not. Friday evening arrived. We ordered takeout and watched half a movie before she stood up. I should get ready. What time are you meeting Emma? 7. I glanced at the clock. You'd better leave. She grabbed her purse. I won't stay too late. Take your time. She smiled. You're the best. I know. She laughed again and kissed me before walking out the door. About 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. Made it. We're starting the movie now. Love you. I smiled and replied. Have fun. Tell Emma I said hello. An hour passed. Then another. I turned on a baseball game and stretched across the couch. My phone rang. Emma. I answered immediately. Hey, Emma. Hi, Ethan. You two already finished the first movie? There was a long pause. Ethan. Her voice sounded confused. Is Chloe with you? I laughed. Nice joke. I'm serious. I sat up straight. What do you mean? I'm asking because she never showed up. The room suddenly felt much quieter. She texted me. What did she say? That she was with you. Emma answered without hesitation. I'm still alone. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, I asked, did she cancel? No. I've been waiting for over an hour. I looked toward the front door. My heart suddenly felt heavier. If she's not with you. Emma quietly finished the sentence for me. Then where is she? I didn't have an answer. The hardest part wasn't discovering Chloe had lied. The hardest part was pretending I didn't know. The morning after her so-called girls' night, she walked into the kitchen carrying 2 cups of coffee. Morning. I looked up from my phone. Morning. She smiled. You look tired. I didn't sleep much. Me neither. She placed a cup in front of me. Emma kept us awake until almost 3. I took a slow sip. Really? She nodded. We watched old movies. What did you watch? She answered immediately. The Notebook. I smiled. Emma hates that movie. Her smile disappeared for a fraction of a second. She let me choose. I didn't know that. Neither of us spoke again. I wasn't trying to trap her. I simply wanted to hear the lie continue. Later that afternoon, I called Emma. Hey. Hi. Do you have a minute? Of course. I need to ask something. Anything. I hesitated before speaking. She said you watch movies until 3. Emma sighed quietly. Ethan, you don't have to protect her. I'm not. Then tell me. I never saw her. I closed my eyes. I know. I feel awful. You didn't do anything wrong. If I hadn't called you, I would have believed her. Silence settled between us. Finally, she whispered, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. I accidentally exposed her. No. I answered calmly. She exposed herself. A week passed. Life looked normal from the outside. Wedding invitations continued arriving. Family members called to ask about seating arrangements. Chloe smiled exactly as she always had. Only I knew something had changed. Friday evening arrived again. Chloe grabbed her purse. I'm going to Emma's. I looked up from the couch. Another girls' night? She laughed. We're trying a new restaurant. Tell her I said hello. I will. She kissed my cheek and left. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Emma. Are you free tonight? I immediately called her. Hey. Hi. You texted. Yeah. I was wondering if you wanted to grab coffee. I frowned. I thought Chloe was with you. Emma sounded confused. She told you that? She just left. Ethan. My heart sank again. I'm sitting at home. Neither of us spoke. Finally, Emma asked quietly, should I be worried? I think I already am. That evening, Emma and I met at a small cafe. She looked uncomfortable. I hate this. So do I. I would never help someone lie. I know. She folded her hands together. I think Chloe is using me as an excuse. I think so too. She lowered her eyes. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. You aren't going to confront her. Not until I understand everything. Emma looked surprised. You're calmer than I expected. I'm not calm. What are you? Scared. She looked at me sadly. Of losing her? I nodded once. The following Monday, I met Daniel Harper for lunch. He noticed my expression immediately. You've got something on your mind. I do. What happened? I told him everything. The phone call. Emma. The two lies. Daniel listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back. What do you think is happening? I don't know. What do you want to do? I want answers. Then don't rush. I looked at him. You think I should wait? I think emotions make terrible investigators. I laughed quietly. That's a very lawyer answer. It usually works. He pointed his fork at me. If you confront her now, she'll deny everything. And if I wait, the truth usually becomes impatient. His words stayed with me. Over the next 3 weeks, the same pattern repeated itself. I'm with Emma. I'm shopping with Emma. Emma and I are getting dinner. Every single time, Emma was somewhere else. Sometimes she was working. Sometimes she was visiting family. Sometimes she was sitting alone in her apartment, wondering why her best friend kept using her name. One afternoon, Emma called unexpectedly. Ethan. Hey, I think I found something. What happened? I was walking through Midtown, and I saw Chloe. My heart began beating faster. Was she alone? Emma hesitated. No. Who was she with? A man. I closed my eyes. Do you know him? I've seen pictures. Where? On Chloe's old college photos. My throat tightened. Jason Reed? Yes. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, Emma whispered, I don't think this is just old friends catching up anymore. After ending the call, I sat alone inside my apartment. The engagement ring brochure still rested on the coffee table. Wedding invitations still covered the dining room. Everything looked exactly the same. Only the future had quietly started changing. For the first time, I realized I wasn't trying to discover whether Chloe had lied. I already knew she had. Now I needed to understand why every lie seemed to lead back to the same man. The strange thing about lies is that they stop sounding convincing once you already know the truth. I didn't need to follow Chloe. I didn't need to search her phone. I only needed to compare what she said with what actually happened. Emma refused to become part of Chloe's excuses again. If she tells you she's with me, Emma said over coffee one afternoon, call me immediately. I don't want you caught in the middle. I already am. She looked tired. I've known Chloe since we were 12. I know, and I've never seen her like this. What do you mean? She keeps pretending everything is normal. I stir my coffee without looking up. Maybe she's pretending for herself. Emma nodded sadly. Maybe. Over the next 2 weeks, the pattern repeated. I'm having lunch with Emma. Emma was at work. I'm shopping with Emma. Emma was visiting her parents. I'm helping Emma move. Emma was eating dinner alone. Every excuse collapsed with one simple phone call. Daniel met me after work one evening. You look calmer. I don't feel calm. You look focused. I finally stopped asking whether she's lying. And now, I'm asking why. Daniel nodded. That's a better question. Before we left the restaurant, he looked directly at me. If you discover something painful, promise me one thing. What? Don't become someone you won't recognize. I won't. He smiled. That's why you'll survive this. 3 days later, Emma called while I was finishing work. Her voice shook. Ethan, what happened? I walked into Brookside Cafe. And I wasn't looking for anyone. I stood up immediately. Emma. I saw Chloe. My chest tightened. Was she alone? No. I already knew the answer. Jason. Yes. I closed my eyes. What were they doing? Emma hesitated. They were sitting by the window. And she was holding his hands. Silence filled the call. I heard part of their conversation. What did they say? Emma swallowed. Jason asked if she believed in second chances. I didn't interrupt. She smiled. Another pause. She said, "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if you had never left." The words hit harder than I expected. Not because they proved physical betrayal. Because they proved something else. Her heart was somewhere I could no longer reach. "I'm sorry," Emma whispered. "You don't have to be. I hated calling you." "I know, but you deserve the truth." "Thank you." I ended the call and sat alone inside my car for nearly 20 minutes. When I finally reached home, Chloe was already there. She smiled. "You're late." "So are you." She placed her handbag on the table. Emma and I lost track of time. I looked at her quietly. "Were you with Emma?" She laughed. "Of course. I know you weren't." Her smile disappeared. "What do you mean?" "Emma saw you." She froze. I continued calmly. "She walked into Brookside Cafe." Chloe crossed her arms. "You had someone following me?" "No." "Then how?" "She happened to be there." Chloe looked away. "We were just talking. You were holding his hands." Jason was upset. "I've heard that excuse before." She frowned. "You're making this bigger than it is." "I'm trying to understand it. He's an old friend." "Old friends don't usually discuss second chances while holding hands." She became defensive. "You're acting controlling." I took a slow breath. "I'm asking honest questions." "You don't trust me." Before I could answer, the front door opened. Jason stepped inside, carrying Chloe's forgotten laptop. "I think you left this in my car." He noticed me immediately. "Oh." His expression stayed calm. "I didn't realize you were talking." I looked at him. "We are." He placed the laptop on the table. "I don't want misunderstandings." "There aren't any." He smiled politely. "You should trust your future wife." I looked from him to Chloe. Neither of them realized something had already changed inside me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply finished trying to convince someone to choose me. As Jason quietly left and Chloe stood waiting for another argument, I already knew what my next phone call would be. Not to accuse, not to beg, but to begin canceling a wedding that no longer had a future. I didn't leave after an argument. I left on a quiet Tuesday morning while Chloe was already at work. The apartment was silent. I folded my clothes, packed 2 suitcases, and placed my keys on the kitchen counter. Nothing dramatic happened. No shouting. No slammed doors. Just the quiet ending of a life I had spent years trying to protect. My phone vibrated. "Daniel, are you ready?" "I think so." "Do you need help moving?" "I rented a small apartment." "Good." He paused. "And the wedding?" I looked around the empty living room. "Cancel everything." "Are you certain?" "I've never been more certain." "I'll contact the vendors." "Thank you." "We'll keep it private." "That's what I want." After the call ended, I picked up the framed engagement photo from the bookshelf. For several seconds, I simply looked at it. Then I placed it face down inside a box. I wasn't throwing away my memories. I was accepting that they belonged to another version of my life. An hour later, I locked the apartment door for the last time. My new apartment was small. 1 bedroom, 1 desk, 1 window overlooking another brick building. It wasn't impressive. It felt peaceful. That evening, Chloe called. "Where are you?" "Out." "I came home." "I know. Your clothes are gone." "Yes." She laughed softly. "So, this is your way of making me apologize?" "No." "You'll come back." "I won't." She sighed. "Ethan, stop being dramatic." "I'm not." "You just need time." "I've already had time." "We'll talk tomorrow." There isn't much left to say. She stayed quiet. Finally, she whispered, "You'll miss me." "I already do." Before she could answer, I ended the call. The next morning, Daniel invited me to his office. He slid a folder across the desk. "The venue has been canceled." I nodded. "The caterer, too." "Good." The photographer asked if everything was all right. "What did you tell him?" "The truth. And that the wedding wasn't happening." He leaned back. "I didn't blame anyone." "I appreciate that." Daniel looked at me carefully. "You could make this very public." "I don't want revenge." "What do you want?" "I want to move forward." He smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." 2 days later, Emma knocked on my apartment door, carrying a paper bag. I brought dinner. You didn't have to. I know. She looked around the apartment. It's small. So, this is my furniture budget. She laughed for the first time in weeks. I'm glad you can still joke. I'm trying. She placed the food on the table. I talked to Chloe. I looked up. How did it go? Not well. What happened? She thinks I'm taking her side. You aren't. I know. I'm taking the truth side. I smiled. Thank you. She shook her head. I lost my oldest friend. I'm sorry. So am I. But I couldn't keep pretending. Neither of us spoke for a while. Finally, she asked, "What's next?" I honestly don't know. 3 days later, I received a call from Michael Hayes. "Ethan, it's been a long time. Too long. I heard what happened. News travels fast." It does. He didn't ask for details. Instead, he asked one simple question. "Do you still write software?" I smiled faintly. "Sometimes. You used to dream about building your own company." I remember. What happened to that dream? I chose a different future. And now, I looked around my empty apartment. Maybe it's time to choose it again. Michael laughed. "That's exactly why I call." After we ended the conversation, I opened an old laptop that had been sitting untouched for years. The first business plan I had ever written was still saved inside it. I read the opening sentence. "Build something people can trust." For the first time since my engagement collapsed, I felt something stronger than sadness. I felt possibility. Meanwhile, Chloe began sending short messages almost every day. "Where did you keep the utility passwords? Who usually paid the maintenance company? Why isn't the grocery delivery arriving?" I answered each question politely. Nothing more. One evening, another message appeared. "I didn't realize how much you handled." I stared at those words for a long time before locking my phone. She wasn't missing my work. She was finally seeing it. By then, I had already started building a life where I would never need to become invisible again. 11 months passed faster than I expected. The small office I rented with borrowed furniture had become the headquarters of a growing technology company. Every desk was occupied. Every meeting room stayed busy. Every success reminded me that I had rebuilt my life one honest decision at a time. Emma knocked on my office door. "Do you have a minute?" "Always." She stepped inside, carrying a tablet. "I've got good news. I could use some." She smiled. "We signed another national client." I leaned back in my chair. "You're serious?" She handed me the contract. "They chose us over companies twice our size." I laughed. "I never thought we'd get here." Emma smiled. "I did. You always believed in me. I believed in the version of you that you forgot." I looked around my office. I finally remember him. She nodded. I noticed. Before leaving, she turned around. "Oh, one more thing." "What?" "The team voted." "For what?" "They want you to give the keynote speech at our annual meeting." I laughed. "I used to hate public speaking. You don't anymore. I guess people change. They heal." After she left, I looked through the glass wall in my office. Nobody here knew me as Chloe's former fiancé. Nobody compared me to anyone else. They simply trusted me. That felt better than any title. Later that afternoon, Michael Hayes stopped by. I barely recognized this place. "You should have seen it when we had one coffee machine and 2 chairs." He laughed. "I remember." He looked around proudly. "You built something special." "We built it." "You still don't like taking credit." I smiled. "Old habits." Michael sat across from me. "I heard about Chloe." My smile faded. "What happened?" "Jason convinced her to invest in an overseas partnership. And it collapsed." I stayed quiet. "He left the country last month." I slowly nodded. "So he finally got what he wanted." Michael looked at me carefully. "Do you feel sorry for her?" I thought for a moment. "Yes." "Do you wish he had chosen differently?" "Every day. But I don't wish my life were different anymore." He smiled. "That's the healthiest thing you've ever said." That evening, Emma walked into my office again. I just got off the phone with Sophia. I looked up. "How is she?" "Tired." "What happened?" She confronted Chloe. I stayed silent. Emma continued. Sophia finally asked her the question everyone was avoiding. "What question?" "Who actually destroyed your engagement?" I already knew the answer. Emma nodded sadly. "Chloe couldn't blame Jason. She couldn't blame you. She couldn't even blame me." I looked out the window. "So what did she say?" Emma's voice became softer. She said, "I did." Neither of us spoke for several moments. Before Emma left, She quietly added, I think she's finally seeing the truth. What truth? That you never held her back. I looked at the family photo that still sat inside one desk drawer. I never wanted to. The next morning my phone rang. The caller surprised me. Olivia Grant. Hello, Ethan. Good morning. I hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all. I wanted you to know something. I'm listening. I met with Chloe yesterday. I waited. I told her leadership wasn't damaged by one mistake. What damaged it? Months of emotional decisions. I closed my eyes. Olivia continued. She stopped listening to people who cared. That sound familiar? It should. There was a brief silence. She finally admitted something. What? She said you quietly supported every dream she ever had. I smiled sadly. That's true. And she never noticed until you were gone. After the call ended, I remained standing by the window. My company had grown beyond anything I imagined. My future no longer depended on someone else's choices. Success hadn't erased the past. It had simply shown me something more important. The happiest part of my new life wasn't the awards, the clients, or the growing business. It was waking up each morning knowing I never again had to convince someone that my love, my effort, or my presence had value. The truth hadn't changed who I was. It had only revealed who had truly seen me all along. Nearly a year had passed since I walked away. Some mornings I forgot what heartbreak even felt like. Other mornings it returned quietly, like an old song playing somewhere in the distance. I was reviewing a proposal when my assistant knocked. Ethan, I looked up. Come in. There's someone asking to see you. Do I know them? She hesitated. I think you do. Who is it? Chloe. For a moment, I simply stared at the papers in front of me. I didn't schedule a meeting. I know. Did you tell her? Yes. And she said she'd wait. I closed the file. Sent her in. A few seconds later, Chloe walked into my office. She looked thinner than I remembered. Her confident smile was gone. In her hand was a small velvet box. She stopped a few feet from my desk. Hi. Hi. Neither of us moved. Finally, she placed the velvet box on my desk. I already knew what was inside. My engagement ring, I said quietly. She nodded. I should have returned it a long time ago. I looked at the box, but didn't open it. You can keep it. She slowly shook her head. I don't deserve to. Silence settled between us. She looked around my office. You built all of this. I had help. Emma. I smiled faintly. And a lot of hard work. She nodded. I heard the company is doing well. We've been fortunate. Another silence followed. Then she whispered the question that had clearly been living inside her for months. Why didn't you stop me? I met her eyes. What do you mean? When I kept meeting Jason. When I kept lying. When everything was falling apart. Her voice cracked. Why didn't you stop me? I took a slow breath. Because I spent years trying. She looked confused. I don't understand. I asked you to have dinner with me. She lowered her eyes. You canceled. I asked you to take one weekend away together. She didn't answer. You said work couldn't wait. A tear rolled down her cheek. I remember. I asked you to tell me the truth. She closed her eyes. You gave me another excuse. She whispered. I thought there would always be time. I know, and I was wrong. I nodded once. You weren't wrong once. You were wrong 100 small times. She covered her face with one hand. I didn't see it. No, you didn't. A gentle knock interrupted us. Emma stepped into the office. I can come back later. It's all right, I said. Chloe wiped her eyes. Stay. Emma looked uncertain. Are you sure? Chloe nodded. I owe you an apology, too. Emma remained near the door. I never wanted this. I know. I told you to tell Ethan the truth. You did. I refused to lie for you. I remember. Emma's voice stayed calm. I warned you that every excuse would become another lie. Chloe whispered. You warned me more than once. I did. Before anyone spoke again, my phone buzzed. The caller ID read, Sophia. I answered. Hello. Ethan. Hi. I heard Chloe came to see you. She did. Sophia sighed. Please tell her something for me. I placed the phone on speaker. I'm here, Chloe whispered. Sophia's voice softened. I begged you to end contact with Jason. I know. I told you that emotional secrets become emotional betrayals. You did. I asked you what mattered more. Chloe closed her eyes. And I kept making excuses. Sophia answered gently. Yes. The room became quiet. Chloe looked at me again. I kept believing Jason stole you from me. I slowly shook my head. No one stole me. She struggled to speak. I lost you myself. I didn't argue. There was nothing left to prove. The truth had finally arrived on its own. And sometimes the hardest truth to accept is the simplest one of all. The person who loved you didn't stop fighting. You simply stopped noticing the fight. 1 year later, I stood in the same park where I had once dropped to one knee with a small velvet box in my hand. The old wooden bench still overlooked the lake. The trees were taller. The flowers had changed. The memories remained exactly the same. I smiled to myself. I really believed we'd grow old together. The morning air was cool and quiet. For the first time, the memory didn't hurt. It simply belonged to another chapter of my life. Footsteps approached behind me. I didn't need to turn around. I thought I'd find you here, Emma said. You usually do. She handed me a paper cup. Coffee. My favorite. I remembered. We stood beside the bench without speaking for a while. Finally, she looked at me. How are you feeling? I watched the sunlight begin touching the surface of the lake. Peaceful. No sadness. Not anymore. She smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. I laughed softly. You've always hoped for the best. You've finally started expecting it. I looked at her. Thank you. For what? For telling me the truth. You would have wanted it. I did. If I had stayed quiet, you would have become part of the lie. She nodded slowly. I couldn't do that. I know. Silence returned. Comfortable silence. The kind that never demanded explanations. Emma eventually sat on the old bench. Do you ever think about her? Sometimes. With regret. I shook my head. No. With anger? No. Then what? I smiled faintly. Gratitude. She looked surprised. Really, if everything hadn't fallen apart. I looked around the peaceful park. I would have never discovered who I was without needing someone else's approval. Emma nodded. I like that version of you. So do I. My phone vibrated. A message from Sophia. Chloe moved to Boston today. She wanted a fresh start. I quietly locked the screen. Emma noticed. Everything all right? Yes. What was it? Chloe left the city. Emma lowered her eyes. I hope she finds peace. So do I. And Jason? I smiled without bitterness. I heard he left the country months ago. He always chased opportunities. Never people. Emma sighed. That's sad. It is. The wind moved gently across the lake. I reached into my pocket and found the empty ring box I kept all this time. Emma noticed it immediately. You still have that? I don't know why. She smiled. Maybe because it reminds you how far you've come. I looked at the small box one last time before closing it. I think you're right. The sun slowly climbed above the trees. Golden light spread across the water. I finally understood something that had taken me years to learn. Real love doesn't ask you to become invisible. It doesn't ask you to compete with excuses. It doesn't ask you to wonder where you stand. If someone truly chooses you, the truth is always simple. There are no secret meetings, no borrowed alibis, no stories that fall apart the moment another person speaks. I turned toward Emma. Ready for breakfast? She laughed. I thought you'd never ask. As we walked away from the old bench together, I didn't feel like a man who had lost the love of his life. I felt like a man who had finally stopped chasing someone who never fully chose him. The greatest victory wasn't making Chloe regret losing me. It wasn't building a successful company. It wasn't proving anyone wrong. It was learning to choose myself with the same loyalty I had once given everyone else. For the first time in many years, my future no longer depended on someone else's promises. It depended on my own, and that was more than enough.